Panthers, close with Kansas City.
It's always close with Kansas City.
Didn't quite get the win, though. Yeah, but for the Panthers, I know there's no moral victories, but this is kind of a moral victory. Like, if you're ever going to have a moral victory, this was actually a moral victory.
You start to wonder if the Chiefs do it on purpose, don't you?
Chiefs win this game.
Let's have some fun today. That's all they'll do. Just, we'll play another close one.
Chiefs win this game 30-27. Don't take anything away from Dave Canales to Carolina. Don't you do that.
You know I love Dave.
We'll take a look at the top 5 graded Kansas City Chief players at the very top of the list. It's a tight end, of course. Oh, wait, it's not Travis Kelce. It's Noah Gray, 82.0. Creed Humphrey, next on the list with an 80.4. Wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, a 77.0. Edge rusher Michael Dana with a 75.5. And then running back Kareem Hunt, a 74.1. Patrick Mahomes in this game, a 75.9 PFF grade. On Carolina's side of things, wide receiver David Moore, who caught a touchdown in this one, 82.4 overall grade. Edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney, an 81.3. Edge rusher DJ Wonnum, a 75.6. Linebacker Josie Jewell, 73.1. Offensive tackle Taylor Moton with a 70.7. Bryce Young, look at that, 83.9 PFF grade in this one. Stat that told the story, Dalton. What do we got?
All right, we'll get to Bryce in a minute, but I'm going to start with the Chiefs' defense. All of a sudden, maybe a little vulnerable. Second lowest defensive grade of the season for the Chiefs. Lowest run D grade. Chuba Hubbard with a good day, too, on the ground.
Another week.
Pass rush, Chris Jones, the only player on the whole team with at least a 65 pass rush grade. And over the last 2 weeks, and you're not used to this with this Kansas City secondary, and I'll actually go to most disappointing here with it, they've given up 14 explosive pass plays in the last 2 weeks. And that's not the usual mode of operation for them. If there's one thing they do usually, it's not give up big explosive plays that can flip the field. Usually you have to grind your way through. You got to run the ball. You got to kind of work your way through all of Steve Spagnuolo's coverages. But I think in this game specifically, it's really about the safeties. Justin Reed, Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, Jaden Hicks, they combined to allow 11 catches for 174 yards. I think the Panthers, Dave Canales did a really nice job of isolating his receivers, getting them on these safeties, and they can often move around. They can be in the slot. They can be in different positions, but gave up 8 first downs in those 11 catches and combined for a 54 coverage grade. Whatever's going on in the middle of this Chiefs defense, they need to figure it out because the safeties seem out of sync. I think we know McDuffie's great on the outside. Wasn't spectacular in this game, but Trent McDuffie's great out there. We know they're struggling at the other corner spot with some injury, especially with Jalen Watson done for the year, but the safeties are really... they're usually a constant for them, especially with as much as they can move around in this defense, and right now they're struggling. Maybe it's just a cold spell. These things go sometimes. It's a long season, but they really struggled in this game.
Before we get to Bryce Young, Panthers defensive line played well in this game. 4 sacks, 26 pressures. That's the most that they have had in both of those categories in a single game. DJ Wonnum, Jadeveon Clowney, 70-plus pass rush grades and 7-plus pressures amongst the two of them. And so it was nice. I mean, this is one of the least productive defensive lines in the NFL so far this season, and they were able to get after Patrick Mahomes. It felt like every time we looked up and we were watching that game, Patrick Mahomes was running. He was getting out of the pocket, and I know he's comfortable doing that, and so he's just a quarterback that you're going to see that quite a bit, but he was under pressure, man, and he's hard to bring down. He's hard to get and make sacks, and obviously some of the rushes that he had in this game ended up being a big deal when it came to the final score. But really, it was the best day yet, I think, for the Panthers defensive line that since Derek Brown went down has not been a lot of hope, and I think that they're playing better as of late. Shoot, you talking about teams not giving up, right? Carolina's, they already had a quarterback change, right? They've had opportunities to sort of give up. It's a first-time head coach, and it feels like they did not give up, certainly when they were facing the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs in this one. And then we'll get to Bryce Young. Bryce Young in this game, 21 for 35, 261 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. He had 5 big-time throws in this game. 5.
That'll do.
It's pretty awesome. Passing grade against single coverage, 90.6. 4 big-time throws against single coverage alone. That's what we talked about with Bryce Young, right? He was not mentally where he needed to be to attack single coverage. At the beginning of the season, those first 2 games, can't remember, it was the Saints, and then I can't remember who the other one was against. He just looked terrified to attack single coverage the way that he needed to. He would throw it. He'd throw the ball at single coverage, but it wasn't close. It was either so short it was never really going to get completed because he didn't want to throw a turnover, or it was so far beyond his head because it was basically like, okay, well, I got to give either my wide receiver or nobody a chance to get it. Well, you were giving nobody a chance to get it way more often than you were giving your receivers a chance to get it. No Jalen Coker in this game, who's been the highest graded receiver for them this entire season. They're throwing Adam Thielen. They're getting production out of Thielen, out of Jatavian Sanders before he went out of this game with an injury. David Moore at wide receiver. Bryce looked great. And you know what else I loved about Bryce? Over the middle stuff. Between the numbers. Wasn't afraid to do it. They said he couldn't. They said he needed a step ladder. They said he couldn't see over the offensive line. Well, here he is attacking over the middle of the field in the offensive line against the Kansas City Chiefs. This looked like a fed-up, focused Bryce Young in this game. And it was awesome to watch him work. This was the closest thing to Alabama Bryce Young that we have seen yet from him in this career. It was the highest passing grade that he has had in a single game in which he has started the whole game through the last 2 years of his NFL career. And his 5 big-time throws in this game were by far the most he has had in a single game performance. He had 3 once in his rookie season. The rest of the time, it's been 2 and 1 if he's had a big-time throw in a game at all. He's not even had 4 big-time throws. This one, he has 5. It's fantastic to watch Bryce Young, and it was great to see him play the best version of NFL football that he has played yet.
This is 3 weeks of this now, and I'm with you on Young. I'm going to stick with that same topic. And you mentioned it, single coverage, tight windows, 4 of those big-time throws into tight windows, clean pocket, which was something that was concerning. This game, a 91.1 passing grade from a clean pocket. And he's done this, what did I say with Anthony Richardson last week? If you do something right, okay, do it again. For Bryce, it's actually 3 weeks in a row now. The last 3 weeks, or I should say his last 3 games going back to week 9, he's the 5th highest graded quarterback in football. He's playing good football, and I thought in this game he just looked, A, much more decisive, and B, under pressure. He doesn't have like a super high pressured passing grade and didn't do anything crazy, but it's the throwaways, or it's the willingness to take off and run and just take what you can get and avoiding the disaster play that I think made just as big a part, as the big-time throws did of like, okay, there are guys who can do both where it's like, oh, we're great when everything's cool and we do something disastrous, right? Like, say, I don't know, like Will Levis has done plenty of times this year where he avoided disaster plays too. And I think that's big when you talk about racing the floor and what Bryce Young could be. We have to sit here and wonder, if he plays the next 5 games like he's played these last 3, do the Panthers have to draft a guy? Could
nope.
they? Right? Could you walk in and stay patient and surround him with more weapons and get this defense going and have a defense that gives you a chance and at least maybe wait another year and see, okay, if he's going to play like this, we have a different conversation.
We obviously have 5 more games to evaluate Bryce Young, but certainly at this point, you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round if you're the Carolina Panthers. You're way too and drafting a quarterback in the first round was sort of like you were reluctant to do that. Like that was going to suck for you if you were going to have to do that because you have so many other needs throughout the rest of the team. So the fact that Bryce is playing well enough to not only be close against the Kansas City Chiefs, but also to give you something to look forward to next year, this combination of Bryce Young and Dave Canales and allowing you to take that, whatever it's going to be, number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick, and either pick in the top 3 or even trade back and get some much better players and much more talent on this football team. That's the ideal scenario for the Carolina Panthers. So it's playing out pretty well. Most disappointing in this one, just a down year. We talked about coverage earlier in the show. Just a down year for J.C. Horn overall. 8 targets, 8 catches allowed, 81 receiving yards, 5 first downs, 43.3 coverage grade. You just want to see better from J.C. Horn. But to be honest with you, if he's getting his bad year out of the way right now, fine.
He doesn't have a whole lot of help either.
That's what I'm saying.
It's another thing with the
if you're
secondary.
getting your bad J.C. Horn year out of the way and he comes out next year swinging with a better defense around him,
it's another thing with the secondary thing where it's we saw Patrick Surtain had a year like this last year. He wasn't great last year, but he also had no help at all. I mean, Horn could just bounce back next year, and that's just the way coverage stuff goes.
It's just how coverage goes. Anything else in this game before we move on?
No, that's about it. Nice job, Bryce Young, even in a loss. Gotta love it.
Love that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.